For part 2 of my series on invasive species that you should totally be killing, I've decided to tackle poison hemlock. But, before I get to the actual plant, here's a long-winded story about my first job. The first job I ever had was working for the farmer down the street from me, baling hay. I worked for a guy named Harold German, but that was German with a J. Not German with a G. You know, like the try to take over the world kind of German. Harold owned a company that was mostly responsible for providing fertilizer and herbicide services to other farmers in the area. He was in business with a guy named Don West, who didn't really look like Michelangelo's David, but for some reason that's how I drew him. Also, the chicken on the weather vane is wearing a Mafia Don hat, and he's pointed west. Anyway, when Don and Harold started working together, Don told him, "Now Harold, if I go into business with you, I want you to guarantee me that we won't get into baling hay, because I don't want to deal with it. I just want to do the chemical work." To which Harold told him, all right, we won't get into the hay baling business, don't worry. Anyway, Harold immediately bought a hay baler and started recruiting the services of young men like me to stack the bales for his clients. Originally, my older brother Pete was recruited to be one of the hay balers. But Pete forgot that he was allergic to grass somehow and had a severe allergic reaction, so he only came out once. How did he forget that he was allergic to grass, you might ask? Well, ADHD. It was ADHD. He could be a bit impulsive and not think things through. So me and the other guys on the job would always drive out to the various hayfields while riding in the back of Harold's seafoam green truck. We'd all bounce around in what sometimes felt like zero-gravity conditions, putting our lives in the hands of an easily confused 80-year-old man who liked to speed, and he refused to wear a seatbelt on account of the fact he didn't like the way it rubbed against his pacemaker. Basically, we could have died at any moment. On the plus side, he always had a good supply of Horehounds in the truck with him, but don't get it twisted. Horehounds are not a type of promiscuous dog that sells its body to the night. Instead, they're a type of candy. They kind of remind me of those like A&W root beer barrel candies that they have sometimes. The flavor comes from the Marubium vulgare plant, which is more commonly known as white horehound or common horehound, and is a member of the mint family. It is another plant that was native to Europe and Asia, but was introduced to North America and Australia and is now considered to be an invasive weed. But this video isn't specifically about that invasive species. This video is about poison hemlock. Real quick though, a review of things that can go wrong when baling hay. For example, if you mow the field and you don't give what you mowed enough time to dry out before baling it, then various bacteria and molds will thrive inside of the hay bales. Eventually, through normal metabolic processes, they produce enough heat that flammable gases get produced that can ignite if the temperature continues to climb even higher. Now suddenly you've got a barn burn on your hands. Other problems to consider include unfair labor practices, falling into the machinery and getting baled yourself, or in the case of Electric Light Orchestra cellist Mike Edwards, getting struck by a hay bale rolling down a hill and killing you. That's no joke. The cellist of ELO, the band best known for songs like Mr. Blue Sky, was killed by a random hay bale. Kind of a crazy way to die. A more insidious problem that you really have to worry about as a farmer is making sure that your field isn't populated with any poison hemlock. This is not to be confused with the coniferous tree that is also called hemlock, which is not poisonous. For students of the classics, you might be aware that hemlock is poisonous because it was what the Greek philosopher Socrates drank to kill himself before the government of the Athenian city-state killed him for believing in the wrong gods. But that's a story for another time. As for now, if you're a farmer, you of course intend to either sell the hay to other farmers who have livestock to feed, or you're giving it to your own. It's big trouble, though, if poison hemlock has made its way into your hayfields, because now you have either killed your own animals, or your neighbors are going to want to kill you for selling them poison hay that killed their animals. The scientific name of poison hemlock is Conium maculatum. The plant is green-colored with a central stalk that branches out in many directions. There are white flowers on the top that grow in clusters like shown in my drawing, but also in the normal pictures as well. I recommend looking up more of these pictures on your own. It can grow up to be about 2.4 meters or 8 feet tall. When pulled out of the ground, you can see one long penetrating root. It is part of the carrot family Apiaceae, and is sometimes confused with plants such as Queen Anne's lace, also known as wild carrot, because it has similar flowers. My mom told me that you can tell Queen Anne's lace and poison hemlock apart using the mnemonic, Queen Anne has hairy legs, because Queen Anne's lace will have hairy-looking stems, while poison hemlock is completely smooth along the stems. Poison hemlock also has purple patches along its stems, while the Queen Anne's lace will be all green. Every part of the plant is toxic and is to be avoided. The stems are hollow, and they can take on a sort of purplish color that intermixes with the green, as I just mentioned. It actually takes 2 years for the plant to reach full maturity, meaning it will grow leaves in its first year of life, and then produce flowers that then go to seed in its second year before dying. According to the Cleveland Clinic, if you want to get rid of poison hemlock in your area safely, then the best thing to do is to dig it out in small patches. Do your best to dig all of the way down so you can get the long taproot out and make sure the plant is really dead. Herbicides are acceptable, but they say do it in late fall, early spring, but not after the flowers have bloomed. I'll link what they had to say in the description. Also make sure to take normal precautions, such as wearing gloves, wearing long sleeves, and you might want to try wearing a face mask as well to prevent any accidental ingestion. The removed plants can all be placed into a trash bag to make sure they're all contained and none of the seeds escape. And of course, don't try nibbling on it just to see if it's really that dangerous. You also shouldn't cut, mow, or burn the plants because you might risk spreading the seeds. Also, I don't think I should have to tell you this, but burning poisonous things makes the poison go into the air, which is bad. Just ask World War I soldiers about poison in the air. Some of you might be wondering to yourselves, why is poison hemlock a problem in North America? How did it get here? Invasive species can make their way to other places for any number of reasons. Sometimes it's on accident, like with the zebra mussels that I mentioned in my other video that I recommend watching. Sometimes it's because there is a practical use, like with the white horehound, because people like to cook with it or to make medicines. But what's really frustrating about poison hemlock is that it wasn't introduced on accident or for any practical purpose because, duh, the entire thing is poison. Which, I mean, yes, Americans might have needed a means of killing each other, but that's why we have so many guns. No, the reason why it was introduced to North America is because people thought it was pretty. That's it, nothing more. They just thought it was pretty. And it makes me so mad that's why it's here, because otherwise it is absolute trash. I suppose the lesson here is that just because something or someone is pretty, that doesn't mean they can't be super toxic. I'm looking at you, Samson and Delilah. Anyway, so that's my latest in my invasive species series, so that's 2 videos now. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you have any suggestions of other plants to cover, I'd gladly take them into consideration, but I had a personal story attached to this plant, so I thought I'd cover it next. Or, if you have any suggestions of how I can improve my videos, I'd take them as well. Do the thing. Please like, share, and subscribe as it helps me grow the channel and encourages me to keep working at being a better artist, improving my joke writing skills, and keeps me inspired to keep trying to entertain and make good education/funny material. So yeah, that's all for now, and I appreciate your support. Death to poison hemlock and all the other invasive species. Later.